I think it's interesting in the United States today that if a white man kills a black person, or a white male goes into a school and shoots people, the news is quick to say it was Caucasian, white, whatever. But when a black man kills somebody or a black man does something, we don't mention the ethnicity. Why is that? Why is it all of a sudden that the Democrats who were the slave owners, who created the KKK, who created the Jim Crow laws, are now trying to tell the rest of society that white people are racist, even though the Democratic Party has a whole lot of white people in it that are racist. But it's us Republicans, us conservatives that are the marked ones. I have been fighting back because I moved to the deep south and I have found an awful lot of foolishness in the midst of the African American community that nobody wants to talk about. People are afraid, people are scared. As I've stated before, 75% of the 11 to 13% U.S. population, the black community and their children, are raised without a father. Something of that high. It's not good. And what is going on is the media has blamed us. We saw in 2020 with the death of George Floyd, which it's pretty obvious he died of a fentanyl overdose. And we've always got this. It was the same with OJ. OJ was guilty of murdering Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, but the black community didn't want to believe it. Same thing with George Floyd. They made a hero out of him. They want to erect statues. It's ironic that his mural was on the wall of an old brick building, and a bolt of lightning hit dead center in the face of George Floyd and blew it to pieces. I don't think that was a coincidence at all. I think God was saying, I will share my glory with no other. The guy was in the process of committing a crime by passing counterfeit money, in other words, stealing from a store. Did not cooperate with the police. He was loaded higher than a kite. And of course, the black community wants to straighten it out always when it's one of their own and look at everything wrong that the officers did, but never what their people did that got them into the skirmish to begin with. I've told the story of getting pulled over in Arizona many years ago, and a cop pulling me over. I had done something wrong without knowing it. It was 4th of July. I had a crowd of people in the back of my truck. We were driving up and down Gurley Street, and everybody else was doing it. And somebody yelled, "Wait, stop." Somebody's trying to get in, and some girl, young lady, tried to get in. They told me, "Go, she's in." I went to go. I couldn't exactly step on it. It was a hot rod truck, but it was loaded with adults. And she fell off. She didn't get hurt. I immediately heard the siren. Everybody bailed out of the truck. I turned off on a side street, and the officer yelled and cussed and screamed. And I said, "Sir, I know I have too many people in the truck, but what have I done? I didn't speed." "Well, somebody was trying to get in the back, and you gunned it, and she fell out." And the two of my friends that actually stayed said they told them she was in and to go. I said, "Sir, I couldn't see. The butts were blocking my back window and my mirror, and I'm wrong for that." The guy yelled and cussed and told me, "I better not see me out." I said, "Sir, 2 o'clock in the morning, I have to deliver the Prescott newspaper, so I'm going to be out." But my point is, you can't argue with the black man. You cannot argue with the Democrat man. You cannot argue. There's a guy that was a Green Bay Packer football player now involved in what appears to be a cult. I'm doing some research on it. Straightway Truth Ministries. Some bizarre beliefs in there. And of course, they're another one of those endless ad nauseum cults that they're the only ones that say God's name correctly. But I asked this guy a question because he was attacking Focus on the Family. And of course, I did a video attacking Focus on the Family. Of course, my conclusions were vastly different than his. But I asked him, I said, "How much money, what are you getting paid?" Because I said, I looked him up, and his net worth is $15 million. I'm sure a lot of that had to do with football. Those football players, they didn't work the life that I worked. They got paid good money to play a game. Kind of sickening that our society puts a huge precedent on sports. And people that work in hospitals, not doctors, but orderlies and janitors and school bus drivers and food service workers get a pittance. And these guys can play a game, and flying millions of dollars in a contract is not enough. Only in America, folks. I don't know Christy Bautista. I know nothing surrounding the case. I'm just making some big assumptions here because it just seems obvious. I'm assuming that George Sydnor Jr. is a black man. This woman came back from a concert to our hotel in D.C. and was stabbed 20 times. An Asian woman. And D.C. had a history of letting him out again and again and again. And the D.C. mayor's under fire. She should be under fire. Every one of these Democrat mayors, and boy, am I going to get in trouble for this. These Democrat black mayors need to go. They're beating the racist drum, saying that we're privileged, we're racist. They're letting killers out. They're letting repeat criminals out. We saw this in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Have to do it that way because of all the algorithms that block, chop, and throw your video offline for saying anything that offends the social media holy see. OMG. So, in regards to the family of this, I don't know you. I'm sorry for the loss of your daughter. I have a soft spot on my heart for Asians anyway because I lived in Hong Kong and I love Asian culture. I live in the deep black South and I'm surrounded by black culture, and I have some black friends. I took one out to breakfast this morning, took another one out for lunch the other day, and I don't have racial animosity in me at all. But I've been bold in the last almost 4 years that I've lived down here. Something has appeared that's ugly. If I ever have to do this over again, if I ever get my house done and get a reasonable price for it, I'm out of here. I don't want to live in a mostly black community. It's 57% where I'm at. And I'm not even going to begin to unpack all the problems here. I did what most whites don't do. I moved right into the heart of this. I get so mad when Michelle Obama says, white people, how come they're not moving into black neighborhoods? Well, Michelle, let me ask you, how come you didn't move into a black neighborhood, Miss Martha's Vineyard? These people, and I'm going to say these people, I'm talking about liberal black Democrats that fire constant stuff at my race. Do you think that all of us are going to just sit down and bow to this? You got to be out of your mind. First of all, you're standing in total error. Second of all, I was born in '66. That had nothing to do with the bullshit that your ancestors went through. Third of all, you emphasize African American. Should I stand up and emphasize I'm Irish American? I'm Irish American. A black student that I work with, and I'm not a school bus driver. I quit doing that last fall, actually last summer. Student was trying to tell me that you're not Irish because you're not born over there. I said, that is incorrect. I said, I wasn't born in Ireland. You're correct, but I can say I'm Irish American, just as you say you're African American. He goes, but I am African. I said, you're African in bloodline only. I am Irish in bloodline only. If you're going to say you're African American, I'm going to say I'm Irish American. It's funny how the society is so polarizing. And I like to hold that mirror right back up to people. You're white. And I love to do this. Are you colorblind? Okay, I work with paint. I do paint in this house. Not in this house, but at other paint jobs that I've done eggshell, antique, all different colors of white, coconut white. But this is reddish. If you look at my face, I have a ruddy Irish complexion, very ruddy. I don't drink alcohol either. I have red. There's parts of my body that are white skin, of course, but I am ruddy in complexion. I really don't care. I will not apologize for being Caucasian. I will not apologize for being Irish. I shouldn't have to. I owe no apology to the African American community whatsoever. I try to invest in the life of African American kids that are shit on by their families. Okay? And there's an awful lot of that going on in their camp. But I asked the gentleman of this Straightway Truth Ministry, who's now refers to himself as an elder, and I said, do you believe in abortion? Or do you support abortion? And of course, this is what I get as the typical, I'm assuming he's Democrat, because they just typically tend to go that way. You know, why do you ask? I want to know if you have a biblical stance on this. Well, I've had X amount of children and I'm trying to have 94 and I'm not there yet. So what do you think? I think you're a Christian smartass. Okay, let's play this game a little further. I'm not going to step up to that ridiculous line. I said it was a simple yes or no question. That's all. I'm not taking your stupid bait. Why should I? And what you see with people that are arrogant, people that are wrong, is that's the kind of answering you're going to get. If somebody were to come up and ask, do you believe in this? Do you believe in that? I'm going to say, no, I do not support abortion at all, period. It is unbiblical. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. One of those is hands that shed innocent blood. That's all I need to say. Hands that shed innocent blood. What does Paul say? That in Adam we die, in Christ all live. Okay? So when Paul talks about the law, you know, a child in the womb hasn't broken the law yet. Okay? The Bible says there's none righteous, no, not one. So if there's none righteous, no, not one, what is innocent blood? No. Pretty clear cut what that's talking about. And if you have any doubt about that, if 2 men are fighting in the Old Testament and one of them bangs into a pregnant woman and she ends up miscarrying or something, he's in trouble. It's interesting that the Democrats love to talk about gun control when their party killed 61 million children, more than Adolf Hitler did with his pogroms, more than Stalin, more than Lenin, and more than Mussolini. The Democratic Party does not operate on knowledge. They're preaching to an old base of people that has just lost their mind, and preaching to a dumbed down young group that's obsessed with TikTok and social media, and they're not the brightest ducks in the pond either. And what is sad is that the black community has gotten behind this foolish political party. And you have a DC mayor who's black. You have Chicago mayor who's black. Lori Lightfoot, who just exited, and they just voted in Brandon Johnson, who's another wingnut. And these people aren't solving the problems within their own skin color community. Lori Lightfoot, black on black violence, jumped to highest levels. And of course, the Democrats will find a way to blame that on Trump. Trump has nothing to do with Chicago or DC. But hey, you know, like the old saying goes, if you don't want to hear truth, you just blame everybody but yourself. Bautista's death is sad. People are asking, did these two know each other? Did they know each other? Okay, whether they did or didn't is unknown at this point. But 20 times stabbing an Asian pretty woman, and whether she was pretty or not. I'm looking at her graduation picture. This doesn't look like somebody who was running around with crazy people like that. I could be wrong. And it's interesting that the black community does not get up ever and protest when an Asian woman or a white person or a Hispanic person is killed brutally by a black person. When a cop's trying to do his job and Chauvin was allowed to put his knee in his back, and then the parents of a loser called George Floyd get millions and millions of dollars, who the parents obviously didn't direct their son in the right whatever, and now they're filthy rich. And the media talks on and on about how the girls of George Floyd, how sad they don't have their father. And I'm like, oh, now we're going to play little Hallmark family commercials. A guy that held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly. This is rich. This is rich. And what our media has done, and what the big mouths on the left have done, and no offense, but the big alpha male that want to yell and shout down our race of people in the black community, they don't want to stick with facts. They'll give you the round and round broken record, police brutality, systemic. The favorite words of the Democratic Party in the last 3 years have been pandemic and systemic. They like emic words because they're emia, whatever you want to call it. And this is not just my opinion. The DC mayor and these people, these judges that let these kind of people back out on the street to kill somebody should get capital punishment, period. You know, it's interesting. The Bible talks about submitting to the governing authorities. And guess what's happening? The governing authorities are no longer submitting to God. Because God, in his word, in the book of Romans, I believe, says, they bear not the sword in vain. You saw Kamala Harris posting bond money for the rioters so they could get out of jail. Encouraging that, supporting that, as a vice president of the United States. Tell me how the hell that makes any sense. So, I just find it interesting that our media says it isn't biased. They said they believe in facts, just like they claim they stand on science with spherical heating and environmental issues. That's a lie. And they do not stand on the truth. The Democratic Party does not put their faith in the Holy Bible and God as a rule. That there are Christians that vote Democrat that are within the Democratic Party is reprehensible on its own 2 feet. But yes, people can be born again and they can be in the wrong thinking politically. I don't know how the Holy Spirit lets them stay there. I don't understand how that works. But you're supporting a party that supports a lot of stuff that ain't right in God's eyes. And all you'll hear is a backlash from black men. Oh, what about the Republicans? Oh, they're evil. Let me tell you something, man. I live down here in the South, and you know who throws the litter out the windows? The blacks. You know who throws their mattresses and tires and shit on the side of the road? Our trash service picks it up here. They dump this stuff all over black people. Have you looked at Baltimore? I've been through Chicago. I've been through the shitty part. I've been through the good part. And it's just funny that every place that I've lived, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I remember going to Watts some years after the big riots down there. That neighborhood became a shithole real fast. And it's just funny for all the talk that's said about us and Black Lives Matters. Obviously, their neighborhoods don't matter. Black lives don't matter to other black lives. And Black Lives Matter, the movement, stole millions of dollars so that some narcissistic, self-serving women that started and co-founded the BLM movement could live in mansions overlooking the Pacific Ocean in California. Wasn't that nice? But, of course, you're not allowed to say that because a coworker heard me live on a Facebook video one day and says, "You're not black. You don't understand." And I said, okay, if you're going to use that argument, then I'm going to say, don't ever talk about whites because you're not white and you don't understand. You guys are using an argument from 80 years of slavery. 80 years. And then Abraham Lincoln stood up and declared the Emancipation Proclamation. That was the end of that. Yes, we had the civil rights movements, we had struggles. I'm not denying all that. But it's funny, you listen to blacks here in America, and they claim 400 years. I guess the blacks forgot that their own African country had the Hebrews as slaves for 400 years. And God himself is the only one that could release them. So every country's had slaves. And for some reason, unbeknownst to me, the people that are picked on the most in the world are the Jews. And the black community is always grandstanding about woe is me. And it doesn't matter. Everybody I come into contact with down here, they always got to make it a point to say wrong things about my race. Anything I say that disagrees with them, I must be a racist. Crazy. To be a Democrat, you have to have abstract thinking, not concrete thinking. I trimmed out this door behind me this morning, hung the door a week ago. I like order. I like design. I like when I talk to somebody where we're both understanding each other. When you look at the DC mayor and you look at these Democrats that think that being soft on crime and you look what happened in don't miss what happened in San Francisco. That's Pelosi's wonderful district. Now, when I was a kid, I used to go to Fisherman's Wharf with my dad and my sister. And San Francisco was a beautiful city back in the day. There was so much crime there. The guy that started Cash App was murdered right on the street. Right on the street. That's what happens when you live in Democrat-controlled areas. They support lawlessness. They let the criminals go. And they strain at gnats and come after us who are conservative, who try to be law-abiding, who try to treat people right. They vilify and demonize whites. Nancy Pelosi, during a pandemic, is eating ice cream with a soy boy news broadcaster when people are losing their businesses, losing their jobs. And YouTube geeks are on there going, just stay at home when they're sitting on piles of wealth. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And like I said, when I left out of Denver, Colorado in 2019, the city council voted not to punish homeless for defecating and pissing on the sidewalks. But if a man comes out of Lodo 2 o'clock in the morning in a bar downtown Denver and whizzes on the wall in an alley and a cop sees it, arrested, sex offender, court. You ever notice in Democrat areas, nothing makes sense? There's chaos. You notice when Democrats are in control, cost of living goes up, cost of everything goes up. You notice when the Democrats are in control, they throw billions of dollars at foolish stuff like the Ukraine and everything else. In Israel, just as the Middle East, the Arabs have been known to do, they initiate and start stuff. And when the Jews move in and do something, they make sure all the cameras are out. Just like when a black guy is not cooperating with the police, there's a black guy out there with his video going. When's the last time you've seen a video of a white guy getting shot by the cops? You won't see it because there's nobody there to shoot the video. See, when I grew up in my culture, we thought if you're effing around with the police and you get shot, you probably had it coming. In the black community, if you get shot by the police, they must be racist. And the black community has a big gap of discrepancy in that cops that have done their job faithfully and were doing everything by the book were shot and killed by black criminals. and the blacks ignore that fact, defund the police. Wasn't that brilliant? Put all the criminals back on the street. Did you see what happened during COVID? When they released the criminals? Some of these people within 24 hours of getting out of jail murdered somebody. It's funny, the Democrats are against the death penalty, except for children in the womb. I don't care what anybody says. You're a Christian and you support this screwy thinking, you're not submitting to the Holy Spirit. You get behind this party. You get behind mayors and governors that support lawlessness. Where's the outrage from the black community? How about if the Asians took to the streets and went into the black neighborhoods and started burning and Molotov cocktails and flipped their cars over? They should. They should. Why is it every time a black person gets taken out by the police that white people, Asians, and Mexican shop owners and eateries and businesses got to suffer at the hands of malcontent blacks always screaming racism when their issue was with a cop and what happened with him and Floyd? That's my point. Democrat thinking never makes sense. Let's take it out on Target, AutoZone, Wendy's. Let's take it out on all these businesses and everybody else that had nothing to do. And this didn't even have to do with the black community. It had to do with an officer in George Floyd. The media in America does this shit on purpose to make and create news. They're sick, perverted, twisted people in the news organizations in this country, the alphabet 3-letter networks. They light the match, they throw the can of gas over there, and when it goes boom, they got all the cameras rolling. Not one Democrat, not one black preacher or Democrat stood up and condemned the behavior of people in 2020 rioting and tearing up property. The Bible says, submit to the governing authorities, for they bear not the sword in vain. If you are doing what is right, then you don't need to fear. But I can hear it now. The in-your-face, loud black man. Oh, well, you know what? We were doing right, and we're always. I know you're not doing right. How come it's always you and a cop? Point to every case out there. Throw them all out there, man. Rodney King, 110 miles an hour the wrong way on a freeway. You son of a bitches. What if I'd have been driving my red Ford truck down there and that son of a bitch took me out? Where's the millions of dollars that go to my parents? None. None. Wrongful death at the hands of a black person in this U.S. Nothing. You get nothing. The black people have learned how to use the justice system to sue and get rich. And I live down here and trust and believe. I hear it all the time. Oh, well, I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue. Why don't you just get a fucking job? I tell you what. I feel it. I see it. People need to stop voting by the color of somebody's damn skin. They need to start voting on people that say, we're done with this. The capital of the United States of America is a hellhole. And all we got is a bunch of people, well, I'm a black woman and I got elected mayor. Who gives a shit? Can you fix the problems? Can you show leadership skills? Of course you can't. Your only focus is the color black. As the black world turns, and you don't stop the crime and you don't do anything, and let's keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Let's keep voting Democrat. Let's keep voting in black people. It's not working, people. It's unraveling common sense. It's unraveling decency. Look at the music that's coming out more and more in this world today. It's not good. Baltimore got butthurt over Trump's comments years ago, but what's their leadership doing? Spray painted graffiti, blown up, busted up buildings. Blacks killing blacks. Yeah, Black Lives Matters. Yeah, right. I got a bridge for sale. With little black boys. Work with me. Or I work with them. And they start calling me daddy. That hurts. I said, I'm not your daddy. I want you to be my daddy. And you got these black men walking around that are 3 times my size. Most of the black men could tear me up like a piece of chicken. I'm no challenge to them. And they got the Pharaoh complex. They drive their Crown Vics where I live with the 3-foot pimpy rims on them, blasting their shitty decadent music. And they want to play that they're some man. Raised by loud yelling black women most of the time. You got a combination of muscle, immaturity, and emotionally driven logic. And that's why blacks either beat the shit out of you or shoot you or stab you to death. Not all blacks are this way. But we see this over and over and over again. And for somebody like me to say what I'm saying, the blacks would say, you're racist. You're not right. No, I am dead on in what I say. And I'm not racist, and I don't need to defend myself. Black people need to turn CNN off. And if this George Sydnor is not black, I'm not going to apologize for what I'm saying. I just think it's interesting that his ethnicity is not mentioned. I'm pretty sure we know it's black. But irregardless, why is the DC mayor, why are these judges letting these clowns out again and again and again? Where's the outrage from the black community about a beautiful young Asian woman who got killed for no fault of her own? How about if her parents sue the African-American community for $27 million for wrongful death because the black community can't get control of their own people? I think that'd be noble. Now, it's funny. They talk about January 6th and insurrection. That's laughable. If those people involved in that, I don't know who was in there, vandalizing and the stupid stuff that happened, I don't support, never did. But if they wanted to go in there and take out all those politicians, they could have, and nobody did it or even tried. And to listen to Pelosi, who cannot say her S's properly, and says, it's an insurrection. Oh, have another beer, babe. I'm tired of these people talking about whites and conservatives and Christians and ignoring us and marginalizing us and creating a very hostile work environment, school environment with critical race theory brought in by a woman who worked for the New York Times. Oh, that's credible. Please, I wouldn't use the New York Times as toilet paper. But this country keeps voting in very bad people. Here where I live in Georgia, there's a radio station. Over in South Carolina, I call it racist radio. It's all black people. and they put down white candidates of the Republican side, and you hear them come out and say, got to vote for our black people, got to vote for our black people. That's interesting because I don't listen to any radio station that ever says that. I listen to Bob FM. They play Michael Jackson. They play Prince. They play Diana Ross. They play Aha and Duran Duran and ELO. It's interesting. The music that they play is fairly integrated. Go to racist radio, that's this irritating, cheesy praise music that's all black people, and the praise isn't that good at all. They don't play any white praise music. Oh, only blacks can praise God. Okay. But when it's political season, the station, the Jamal Bailey show, another arrogant, ego dude who thinks he's funny and thinks he's witty, and I've had to learn. I work with a coworker who has a friend. I don't like her friend. There's people that don't. He's young. He's immature. He fucks both men and women. That's out of his own mouth. And he's dated numerous people in my workplace. Loves them and leaves them. And I said today, I said, what is it with you guys? You all think he's a cat's meow. I said, what? I mean, I'm not into guys, but there's guys I work with, black men that are ripped. They do their job well. They greet me every time I see them. They got their act together. And what's the deal with this guy over here? He looks like Baby Huey. He's got 6 feet of legs and this big trunk of a butt. I mean, that's not sexy. He's not GQ. And my friend said, well, he's not sexy, but he's not ugly. And I said, well, I'm not going to go there with you. I said, I don't like him. You want us to be friends? Sorry. He gets away with stuff in the workplace because of the color of his skin. I'm the minority in my workplace. I don't do that. In my workplace, I do what I'm supposed to do. I don't give favoritism. Ever. And I'm rabbit trailing, but all this ties in. An Asian woman's been killed, stabbed to death 20 times. Does it even cause a hiccup on the black radar in this country? Nope. But let's be honest. What if I was in that hotel room? What if I had come back from a concert and a black man stabbed me just because? You think it'd make national news? It wouldn't, because I'm not a woman. And I did a video talking about that. I've been very fair. I've been very fair in my assessment of things. I talked about the Mormon 15-year-old girl that went missing out of Ogden years ago, and the national news did a big blowout story about that. But when little black girls go missing all in the inner city, they end up on a milk carton and there's not a damn word said by the media. That media that's telling us that we're racist against blacks. When a black woman goes missing in this country, this media doesn't talk about her unless she's a big shot and the Democrat hoopla. So, yeah, there's some strange and squealy stuff, Bugs Bunny, going on in this world of media. As a kid, long before I was familiar with inner city, I mean, I grew up in LA and then we moved to a mountain town for 7 years in the Sierra Nevadas. And even up there, we get a carton of milk and it says, have you seen me? And you see a cute little black girl with her little eyes. And as a kid, I'd sit there and think, that's terrible. Some little girl's not in a warm little bed being tucked in by loving parents. Boy, I didn't know nothing about the black community back then. I just know that when a black family moved to Mammoth, I was minding my own business, and the three brothers decided to chase and harass me for no reason. And thank God for Ike Linder, a World War II vet, who came around the corner in his beautiful 72 K5 Blazer. And he threw open that door and he says, "Get off of him, get away from him, and go home." Pacific, get in a truck. I said, "Man, I didn't do anything to them." He says, "Yeah." He says, "I know that." He said, "They're the minority and they want to come here and start trouble right away." He said, "That is not going to go well for them here." And there are black people who say, "Oh, see how racist that is?" And I hear people, even that I work with, "Oh, you lived up in this town, it's all white people." So what? So what? Sweden's all white people. Finland, Norway. So what? You go to a place in Africa, they're all black. So what? Why do blacks got a problem that there's places in America that just happen to be mostly white? Does that mean they're racist? I know when I lived in Duluth years ago and Gary in Chicago was sending all its welfare recipients up our way, we started having some problems. They found out that St. Louis County had very generous welfare, and they started shipping. Some of these mothers brought their kids up thinking they could change. You can't bring a kid out of the inner city into a place like Duluth and think that that kid's going to suddenly go, "Okay, I've seen the light." No, they were trying to, the police started having problems up there. I'm tired of this black and white polarization that the media has done. That the black community in their own deficit intellectually just grabs onto that because they want to live in that race go round carousel. And let's get another verse and vote it in. I mean, here where I am, the first district attorney black. Ooh, wow, I've dropped to my knees, baby. And then you find out our black mayor has his hand in the kitty in the slush fund. And you find the leadership where I live is crappy and nothing gets done. Yeah, you know what? And white people do it too. I got you. But I'm focusing on the blacks. You guys got equality. You get to be presidents and governors and mayors. What are you doing with it? Nothing. Anybody that thinks that these criminals that are repeat offenders should be let back out on the streets needs their head examined. And I would tell you, if I was in charge of this country, which I never would be, I'd never get voted in. And it'd be hard to get this passed, but I'd say people that support letting these criminals go, if they get out and kill somebody, that person, that judge is going to be up for the death penalty and removed. It's sad that an Asian woman got killed. But how many men are killed that didn't do anything wrong? They weren't doing drugs or tangling with this. The news doesn't even say anything. But it's a woman. And to the family of Christy Bautista, my regards, my condolences. I have a soft spot for Asia. It's sickening that a woman had to die being stabbed or anything done to her like that at all. DC's a joke. I had a woman pull up into my yard here 2 years ago. She's a black woman. I live in a black neighborhood. And she pulled into my driveway and asked if a certain individual was there. I said, no. I said, she doesn't live here. And I said, I've been getting her mail for several years now, and it still keeps coming. I keep sending it back. Oh, okay. Well, I'm just out to get the black vote. I was busy working on the yard and doing stuff. But for a split second, I wanted to say, why not the white vote? I should have. I should have challenged her and said, why would you just get out the black vote? Why don't you encourage everybody to get out and vote, even if they vote against you and your candidates? They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. My black female friend that I took to breakfast this morning was thinking about doing that. She said they're paying black people to go out and get out the black people to get out and vote. I said, do you think they'd hire me? Would they hire me? This is her words to me. She goes, no, I think they only want the black people to get the black people to vote. I said, you realize that's racist, right? She got very quiet. Can you imagine if I was to drive around saying, I want to get out the white vote? Places would be set on fire if I was doing that. Dealing with black Democrats, for me, is like moving to another planet. I lived in Hong Kong for 13 months. The Chinese culture is fascinating. I met some beautiful Chinese ladies and guys that I was friends with over there, but I also met Chinese that were rude and shoved and pushed and banged into you, and I did a video that got over 100,000 views before I pulled my channel down due to trolls and stupid in America. Not trolls overseas. America. And believe it or not, I've always been fair. Guess who were the trolls on my channel? It wasn't blacks, it wasn't Asians, and it wasn't even women. And there were some women that were getting on my nerves. But it was white boys. Death threats, posting, doxing, all my personal information, crap like that. I struggle because there's things in the black community I like and there's things in the black community I don't like. My next door neighbor is an older black man. He needed help. His pipe had froze. We got down to 11 degrees, which is cold for the south. His hose spigot burst, and he wanted to replace the PVC line, and he said, I'll pay you. And I slid under the deck, which was yay high, and I was on my back. All he wanted me to do was hold it. While he was gluing it and putting the wire around it, I was holding it. We were talking, and we got done. He says, what do I owe you? I said, nothing. I said, that's what neighbors are for. Why would I charge you for that? And he says, anytime you need help, you want to put up a fence, you want to do something, he says, you call me. And I appreciate that, but I don't. Because I believe in carrying my weight as much as I can without burdening somebody else. But that man, there's bars on his window. There's security lights all over his house. That's the kind of neighbor I want. And he told me, he says, I like having you as a neighbor. He said, before you moved in, that grass was 3 feet high. I put up a privacy fence. I got tired of looking back there. He said, you, and I just took him through here the other day to show my remodel. I says, wow, you're doing a good job in here. I said, yeah, and I'm not a handyman like you. He'd been doing it for 50 years. So to get that as a compliment was huge to me. And I think the worst thing whites did was do white flight. That's what happened in all these neighborhoods where there's violent crime is off the chain. Chicago, Baltimore. Baltimore was a beautiful place at one time. And white people should have stood their ground and stayed there and let the black people move in. But when they start acting up, we all need to work together as a neighborhood and say, you know what? It's a village, man. You're not selling drugs. You're not doing this shit. But we didn't. People ran. And the longer I live here, if I ever get done with this place and I have a better door of opportunity to go through, I'm going to leave because there's a depressing element of being in the African-American community. I'd rather be surrounded by Asians. I really would. Because even when I grew up in California and The Asian people keep their houses tidy. They keep their properties tidy. I don't have any problems with them. And there's some good people here that are black. Good people. But there's a lot of bad ones too. Just like in my race. But you got some drifter criminal. Then he smokes a damn cigarette, got blood all over himself, and sits in her hotel room. That's how they were able to catch this son of a bitch. The fuck is going on in that man's brain? Yeah, that one right there. It is sad when anybody gets killed that isn't involving himself in drugs and stupid activity. It's sad. Male or female. There's a lot of men that get killed in this country that didn't do anything wrong and the media doesn't even report it. But yes, when you see a picture of Christy, their cap and gown on, that's fucked up. Some beast of a man stabbed her 20 times. What a fucking coward. A pussy. And I'm going to say that about a lot of these black people that act like THUGS. You didn't grow up in the right environment. You yelled at, screamed at. Your mother was no more mature than you are most of the time. And then you never got man skills. You're strong as hell, but you never got man skills. I know this sounds dumb, but I've had to face my fears even with the black community. And yes, as a white guy, oh, you better believe I have them. When we had the riots, people were contacting me from out west. Man, are you going to be all right? These people are tearing up everything. I said, they're not rioting here. Thank God. For the most part, it's pretty docile here. Lots of drug crap going on. Lots of black on black murder going on. There's more black on black murder going on for the size of this place, which is much smaller than Denver. There's too much. It exceeds Denver. And black leadership has done nothing to stop the damn problem. I called Lori Lightfoot when she was in office, and about a year ago, and I said, man, I said, the stuff that you're saying about my race and you're all worried about Abbott in Texas and the illegals. Why don't you clean up your backyard, lady? I'm not mayor material. I wouldn't know how to run a city, but I'll tell you what. I'll put my money where my mouth is. If Chicago wanted me, if they actually wanted me, I'd be scared shitless. But I'd go. And I'd get me some men and women around me to know what the hell's going on. And I'd say, closed door meetings, no media. What are we going to do about this problem? How are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to turn this around? How are we going to put Chicago as an example on the map of integration and innovation and bringing people together and stop this crap down here? And as an ex-school bus driver, I can tell you, America doesn't like to talk about this ugly fact, but when you don't have a mother and a father who are grounded in the absolutes of God's word, guess what? You get what you get. And it's a danger to everybody out there. These black children down here are off the chain where I live. Not every one of them, but a lot of them. When a 6 foot plus linebacker size black guy, when he did my route, when I got off of my route, I said, I'm not doing that route no more. The school's not backing me up with these kids. You got third graders climbing over the seat, yelling bitch, whore, fuck, damn shit at some girl, and over the seat and punching her in the face with intent to destroy her. And I have to pull these kids off each other. And you got a grown black man who's got the physical might to snap me like a toothpick. And he drives my route that I have been driving for several years. And he says, man, I'm done. I don't know how you did it, but I can't put up with that kind of disrespect. Yeah, I hear you, man. Why do you think I got off of that? And all I had was black routes. That's it. But I had a high school route where they weren't quite as bad. I had a middle school route that was off the chain, but once they got used to me and I said, you know what? I know the principal and I know the vice principal, and you guys want to play, I'm going to get you off of here. But it helps when you have that community. When I first started driving, I was the first white guy in this area of town to drive the school bus, and I was told that by management. And those kids saw me and thought, oh boy. And they were going to have fun with getting up into my grill. I had been driving buses for 25 years in 4 states. Inner city Denver. I had a mostly black route in Denver. Nobody wanted that route. I did it. The kids and I got along. I gave them candy bars as rewards for staying seated, being respectful, being good. I bid off of that route because I got more hours on another bus. The Hispanic driver went to do that route, and she came in at 3:00 morning. How did you do that route over there? Those kids are bad. I said, what are you talking about? They were yelling at me. They called me the B word. They said, we don't like you. We want Mike back. I said, what did you do to them? I said, did you start yelling at them all? And wow, those kids respected me. They didn't respect her at all. They didn't respect the big Mexican driver in the afternoon. He came to me and said, those kids are off the chain, man. I said, they don't do that to me. They don't do that to me. I have an interactive group of kids. They fist bump me every day. They liked riding my bus. And nothing warmed my heart more as a white man to hear all these black kids say, we don't want you. We want Mike. Unfortunately, because of money and dollars and all that good stuff, I bid on a route that gives me more time. I really hated the fact that I had to leave them. That I didn't like. And I'm learning something. As hard as it is, more white people need to come down here and get in the trenches. Because with all due respect, the African-American community is not solving the problem that they've pretty much kind of created. And the blacks need to see that there's white people out here that aren't racist and are down in the trenches and do care and can teach them boundaries and respect and how a man ought to be. That a man is not defined by his Crown Vic with pimpy rims and going and doing urban warfare and urban terrorism with his stereo shaking the pictures off people's homes. They need to see a man, though I'm small and know that I'm no big mighty warrior, stand up to their stuff and say, no, you guys are not going to do this. Man, I've been threatened so many times. I had a high school kid call me the N-word. A black kid called me the N-word. Said, man, I'm going to get my grandma. I said, you're going to get your grandma to kick my butt, huh? I said, your grandma's not going to touch me because when I tell her what you're doing, the fires are over. Then he threatened me. He was about the 2/3 back on the bus. I kept my distance and I said, let me tell you something. If you touch me, Georgia law gives me the right to defend myself. So you better choose your actions wisely. I turned around and walked back to my seat and sat down. He started yelling again. I stood up on the doghouse of the engine. I said, I'm going to tell you again, you come up here with intent to harm me, I've got a right to defend myself. As a white guy, I don't care what the media is saying. This critical race theory has no business in the public schools. And the education system had better get it straight and stop recycling the same old Denver schools. Manual High School every year would show the old footage of the fire hoses being sprayed at blacks. What good is that? What is the purpose of that? That was then, this is now. To keep the shit alive. And the Democrats want to keep this shit alive. But when the Democrats get in power, what are they doing to better their cities? What are they doing to better the black community? What are they doing to make these children quality children? Oh, they showcase one student that made it. But they ignore the shiploads that are falling through the cracks. They're enabling them. They're coddling them. And it just seems to me that the Democratic Party loves crime, loves chaos, doesn't care if everybody gets killed. And maybe what needs to happen is these criminals they're releasing need to turn back on all these Democratic leaders. And when some of them start getting killed and their houses get burned and their savings accounts get ransacked, maybe then they'll change their mind. It's sad that we got a group of such self-centered, self-serving megalomaniacs in the left and the black person who wants to be the next this or that, and they're not changing the shit in their own community. And then they want to talk about my shit. You know, I don't have cats. This house was a mess. That beautiful wall you see behind me, that wasn't like that. That wood has varnish and it went up and down the other way facing with the curved edge. I cut out rot and damaged wood. What I salvaged was that I flipped over. Instead of going up and down, I did it this way, tongue and groove, varnished it. I believe in redeeming stuff that's usable, especially when the expenses of everything has gone through the roof. What bothers me, and hello, sir, I just saw you there, is we live in a society that is in absolute denial. They have no problem, this sick, twisted media that creates the news. They set the tone and create the environment for riots to take place. They're not reporting. They just make it look like they're reporting. They created the shitstorm. The media is forthtelling of what is to come. Notice that. Gas prices are going to go up. Boom, tomorrow they go up. Food prices are going to go up. Tomorrow they're working in cahoots with all the big greedy corporations, folks. It's time to wake up. Now they're telling you that the gravest danger to us is a solar heated explosion of spherical heating. 61 million deaths at the hands of the Democrats is a little more concerning to me. I don't know anybody that's died because the temperature went up 1.5 degree. The Earth's average temperature went up 1.5 degree from 1880 to now. Don't think those are alarm bells. And if anybody would just stop and think about 1880, there was not the internal combustion engine rolling up and down everywhere around the globe. How many cars and trucks and equipment and factories and air conditioned pads, the unit, all of them, this fridge kicks out heat. Could that have risen the temperature an average or more? Absolutely. What does the diesel engine run at? 220 degrees? And then when you shut that car off right away, it gets a little bit hotter. And then it comes back down. I mean, we're being lied to. We're being fed a bunch of BS. The Democrats don't care about preserving the environment. They're acting like they care. Do you remember the COVID-19 came out? Before it even got a toehold in the United States, Does anybody remember what the media and the Democrat left did? Did you see the sleight of hand and the cute little "we care" move? Did you see that? They said before it even hit the U.S. shores, black people are more susceptible to this. Wow, did they bolt up with the masks and social distancing right now? My black friend and I were down for the voting. We were 6 feet apart. There was a black man in front of us. In fact, it was all black people in line. I was the only white boy there. And the black man kept turning around and looking at my friend, who she likes to goof off and be funny, and she kept accidentally getting behind him within 2 feet. The black man turned around and snarled at her, a black woman, and says, "Will you keep your distance? I've already lost relatives from this COVID." And she said, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. And he kept on, and I said, "Sir, she apologized. Can you let it drop?" Fuck you. The Democrats told the black community they were more susceptible. Now watch this. Watch what I'm going to say. I lived in Hong Kong. I've been around a lot of people. I'm very much international. I've been to the Philippines and Japan and Macau and all over the U.S. And I'd like to go to Africa. I'd like to go to Kenya or Zambia, if God allows. The way the world's going today, I don't think we have much longer, but who knows? People have cried wolf before. Watch this. You know, African-American women dial in physically without going to the gym, without working out, dial in as much more brute strength than Asian, Hispanic, or Caucasian women. That's my observation. I didn't read that anywhere. That's my observation. They are strong as an ox. Black men can be ripped without pumping any iron. That's why they were used as slaves. And what the black community doesn't realize is that there's some more and more research coming out, but I'm Irish, and the Irish were used as slaves too. The blacks don't pay any attention to that. The Irish slaves were beaten. The women, the Irish women, were used as sex goddesses for the elites. And we don't hear anything about Irish slave days or nothing. But if you look on, is it Snopes, Wikipedia, or whatever, and the question is asked, fact checking, were there more Irish slaves than blacks? And I said, it is possible. Black people, the slave owners paid more for a black slave than they did for an Irish, because the black men were strong as an ox. Where's the reparations that we should be getting? You see how ridiculous this starts to get? Don't you love the lie that the Democrats like to say, that we stole the land from the natives? Okay, Elizabeth Warren, okay, Pelosi, Hillary, Obama's, give your house to a native, sign the title over to a native. I haven't seen the Democrats do that yet. And I love it when black people say, well, you stole it. Wait a minute. You're a citizen of this country. You own a house over there on Gaylord or Timbuktu Avenue. Why don't you sign it over to the Cherokees? Oh, no. We don't want to do that now, do we? So then shut up. They stole the land. You're squatting on it then. If we stole it, then you just convicted yourself, because you're enjoying this place. You own a piece of their land. You don't need a political science degree to shred the bullshit of the left. You just need to pay attention. You need to have discernment. You need to have an understanding of the Bible. You need to have an understanding of current events and history. Oh, the Democrats don't like it when you study history because they're twisting it all up. You know, the Pilgrims were all racist too now. No, they weren't. Read about the voyage of the Mayflower. It was ugly. There wasn't no love boat cruise ship. That sucked. So, wrapping it up, I got things to do. The black people were told they were more susceptible. They have more physical brute strength. How is that? How did they have proof of that before it hit the U.S.? This was created in a lab. That's already been proven. The Democrats did this to feign, to grandstand that they care, to put their arm around the blacks saying, we care about you, man. Mask up. We're worried about you. But know this, that same party keeps them down in the ghettos, down in the hood. They let city zoning in any place where there's abject poverty and projects. There's always a liquor store with lotto tickets, cigs and booze, and you see the proverbial black man and woman heading there to get their booze. The Democrats are full of shit. I, as a white man, would say, why are we allowing zoning to put these places in the low-income neighborhoods? It just keeps the vicious cycle going. Why don't you put these damn things in the country club neighborhoods? Put them right there in the country club neighborhoods. Oh, well, we don't want to go. Too bad. I'd love to be in leadership. There's a lot of things I'd change. First thing I'd change is say, states, you better clean up your driving or we'll do it for you. You want to get all chip happy, we'll put a chip in every car. You exceed the speed limit, it stops. I'm not talking to do a pass, but you're speeding, that car stops and it shuts down for 10 minutes. If you're excessively speeding, it shuts down for an hour. And if you remove the chip, the car doesn't go. You see, we could solve these problems. And the government, these morons are worried about gun control. Stop killing 61 million children. We'll have a lot less people killed. But don't you love the Democrats? They're so concerned about school shootings of children, but they killed 61 million in the womb. You see, this, I don't care what the feminists, I don't care what the women say. Margaret Sanger was a racist white woman who hated blacks, and she loved abortion, and she was the mother of current modern day Planned Parenthood. And you can read all about her. The blacks don't talk about her because the blacks patronize her clinics or what she started. So back to Christy Bautista. I went off on a rabbit trail because I'm known for that. This is what happens when you have an ethnic group of people that 75% of the men that want to grandstand and posture and play intimidating loud bass and think that they're all that can't love and stay with that woman and help raise those kids. And you got little black boys that are like boats without rudders. They're directionless fools. And when they do see daddy show up once a year, they want to be like daddy, even though he's a complete fail. Great role model in the black community. Don't talk about us whites. Don't talk about us. You don't teach your kids to obey law enforcement. And you guys, let's add up. Let's go to the police districts all across America and see how many black people killed officers who were not doing anything wrong. Let's look up those stats. What if Rodney King had hit me with his car going 110 the wrong way on the LA freeway system? Is there any recompense for me? My son? The parents that adopted me? Nah. So you want to talk about racism? You're full of shit. If a black person takes me out and I'm a wrongful death of some idiot doing something wrong, there's no money for me because you ain't going to get anything out of Rodney fucking King. How about Michael Brown, an overweight black boy? And everybody likes to say he was a child. He looked like an adult. Robs a store, roughs up the clerk and is walking down the street. Wilson comes by and says, get on the sidewalk. Doesn't even know he's the one that did it. He's responding to the call. And this punk bum rushes the officer's door of the car and tries to grab his gun. And guess what the relative of Michael Brown says? Ferguson's going to burn. He's being charged with instigating a riot. Blacks can dish it out, but they can't take it. They can dish it out all day long and say that I'm racist, that we're ignorant, that we're dumb, that we're this, and we're that. And when I speak, all they can do is say I'm racist. No, you just don't like facts. You don't like it when I hold a mirror up, and I've been told that all my life. I've done it in white communities too. I did it in a small town in northern Minnesota and created a firestorm by writing a letter to the editor. And a guy that came to put a gas fireplace in my basement, he's doing the rock work on the wall, and he said, you wrote quite a letter there that stirred up the community. And I said, are you against me for that? He said, no. And he was calmly putting stones in place, didn't even turn his head, his back to me. And he said, Michael, what you did is you held a full-length mirror to the community, and they don't like what they see, so they're going to hurl insults at you. That's what the Democratic Party is doing today to Fox News, to Tucker, to Mark Levin, to Donald Trump, to Michael Nelson, to any of us that speaks the damn truth. When you speak the truth, like I do, you're not going to be invited to the reindeer games. And me, a white guy living in this black community, this is another world, folks. This is another world. Another world. It needs to be said. Somebody needs to stand up and say, where's the outrage from the black community over the death of an Asian woman? Where is it? They're myopic and they're self-centered. Everything revolves around their skin color. Something happens to them. Oh, the hive's pissed. Doesn't matter if I die. Doesn't matter if Christy Bautista dies. They don't care. The mayor doesn't give a shit. The mayor is not going to lose one bit of sleep tonight over that girl's death because she's a black mayor. She doesn't give a shit. That's why. And these people don't like me saying that, but they're in politics. They're full of themselves. They're full of their ego. They're full of their salaries and their snow globe lifestyles. And they themselves don't live in that dangerous crime element. They get the hell away from there. Case in point, Oprah Winfrey. Not satisfied with one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 mansions. One's worth $90 million in Montecito, California. Oh, that was moving to Compton, right? The black community needs to stop talking about my race. Because when they get the money and they get rich, they leave the hood. So they don't fix it. And then they got the nerve and the balls to say, Oprah did it and Michelle did it. The whites are privileged. Yeah, I'm privileged. I own a house on Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, I bought a ghetto house that was lived in by black people, a black woman. And it just so happens that the lady I work with every day said, you live in, that's your house? Oh my gosh, I was friends with the lady who lived there. I said, do you know what this house's condition was? She goes, oh, I used to come in here. It stunk. She was a hoarder. There were rats running around, cockroaches. I said, yeah, they chewed the studs up that far. But in the back of the house, there was a storage door. Half of it was busted. There was bags, trash bags full of black women's clothing and stilettos and family portraits and the daughter or whatever, the relative, beautiful. This lady came by to bring her sister to see the work I'm doing on the house. And the lady told her sister, you should have seen what Mike had to do with this place. And her sister said, that surprises me because she always looked so nice. She always had her hair done, her nails. And that's the joke I always say, you know, where I live here in Georgia, these black women will drop $300 on a hairstyle and nails, and their car looks like a roll-off dumpster hit it inside. Their house has got creepy things all over it. And the guys are standing in line to have sex with these women, but they don't stay And they got 3, 4, 5 children. I know a woman, beautiful. I wanted to date her. She's got 3 children. All of them are from different men. She doesn't want to date me. She keeps going after black guy after black guy after black guy that bangs her, uses her, and leaves. So, wow, I got a house big enough for your 3 children. Why don't you try white meat? Why don't you try somebody to stay with you? Why don't we? What? Stability? I know now why I moved here. I don't know if God's ever going to give me a voice because I don't consider this a voice. I have what, 10 views, 11 views? Woo, baby. I used to have 3,500 subscribers till the trolls came. I wish I could get a megaphone and shout to the black community, but you know what? It's just like the rich man and Lazarus. Rich man dies, he goes to Hades, and Lazarus dies, he goes to Abraham's bosom, and rich man says, "Oh, please send Lazarus to dip his tongue in the water and put on dip his finger in the water and touch my tongue." And this little interchange goes back and forth. And God says, "No. But if he rose from the dead and told my family they'll believe." And Jesus said, "Even if a man rises from the dead, they will not believe." And he was talking about the Pharisees right there, the religious leaders, the ones that claim to know it. The black community claims to be such experts in the white community and all these problems and the hustler men out there that, yeah, I got this figured out. You're not solving your problems. In fact, it's almost always that it's white people that have to come in and clean up the mess and the damage. Not to mention the fact that everything that the black people use was invented by whites. The fridge, the laptop, the cell phone, the faucets, the plumbing, all that, everything, the light switch. And as the community wants to talk bad about us, none of them are moving to Africa. None of them are going to Africa. I had a woman in Zambia, and unfortunately, we lost touch. We met online and talked online. She was a beautiful woman, but I didn't feel I liked her as a friend. She had the hots for me. She had 2 children. She was a school teacher, lived in Kasama, or she was in Lusaka and went to Kasama, change of jobs. And she said, "Michael, I can visa you here. If you come and see me, I can visa you here." And I laughed. I said, "No, you can't." I said, "Nobody can visa Americans." She goes, "Yes, I can. I have a house. I have my own farm field that I pay laborers in." Michael doesn't use people. I wasn't in love with her to the point of wanting to marry. Now, there's some ladies over there that I do like very much. Zambia, Kenya. And I would be at peace if God opened the door for me to move to Africa. And Africa's got its problems. But I can't imagine that when we're talking Kenya and Zambia, there are problems there. But I can't imagine they be any worse than what's going on here. Because one thing I've noticed with the black women in Africa, they're bilingual and trilingual, know 3 languages fluently. They talk with grace. They fear God. They dress beautifully. They have jobs, and they take care of their stuff. A big, giant night and day difference to what I see here. All I see is loudmouth rabble-rousers like Stacey Abrams and the Atlanta mayor. Yep, let's just keep voting by color. They ignored Dr. King when he said that a man be judged by the content of his character, not the color of his skin. It was the black community too. They judge by the color of their skin. We're only going to listen to Prince. We're only going to listen to Michael Jackson. We're only going to listen to the black people. I have never seen a group of people so myopic. When I was in the Philippines, they're listening to a lot of our music as well as their Philippine music. The Mexican community, the Mexican Americans are listening to 80s rock and the Eagles and all that as well as their stuff. And the black community, very myopic, very exclusive. But there's black women that are waking up and realizing maybe it's time for me to stretch my wings and date somebody outside my race. It's happening in Africa. And they're finding it's working very well. Thanks for listening. My regards to Christy, Bautista. Senseless. But this crap's going on all across the U.S. and it is politically. And you may not like family that I'm bringing politics into it, but politics has everything to do with this. Stop voting for these clowns that are soft on crime. Stop voting for these judges. Judges shouldn't be elected. They need to uphold the law, not feelings. You let somebody out who goes and kills somebody, you should lose your job at the minimum and should be next in line for the death penalty. Because let me tell you something. If I have a child in my care and I let that child walk off a deck with no balcony or no railing on it to his death, I'm going to be charged with negligence. Why are the judges not charged with negligence when they let these dangerous people out? Why is it that Democrats have rules for you, but not for them? You notice that? Always pulling into their bag of tricks. The D.C. mayor is worthless. Lori Lightfoot is worthless. Brandon Johnson is worthless. At Baltimore, at L and others, where blacks are dominant. They have and vote in crappy leadership based on the color of their skin, not the content of their character. That even me, as overwhelming as it would be and as terrifying as it would be, if I was forced to be a mayor of Chicago, I'd get a cabinet together real quick. And I'd be bound and determined by prayer and fortitude to say we've got to make a change that the citizens in the city can see. But no, we're living in a day and age. Vote Democrat, vote Democrat, vote Democrat, vote black, vote Democrat, vote Democrat. It's a broken fucking record. Pardon my French. And no, I don't live with a pure mouth and a pure mind all of the time. I'm going to say that right now. But I do believe in the power and the authenticity of God's word. And I believe that there's a lot of fake, crazy people out there jumping on cult bandwagons and stuff. You're going to put somebody down for taking in $99 million, but then you're worth $15 million and you're in a ministry. And I personally have had a problem with anybody in the ministry having millions of dollars. Now, if the young man came into the ministry with that already, okay, fine. I can't say anything about that. I believe people that are in ministry need to declare the whole counsel of God, and they need to stop being in it for money and ego and prestige, and we make cult shrines out of people. Oh, you got to hear this guy. You got to hear this one. No, I don't. A friend of mine shot me a white woman who's calling herself a pastor. You got to listen to this woman. No, I'm not going to listen to her. And I didn't even tell him yet. He said, I'm not going to listen to her. Paul says, I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over men. Oh, you're chauvinist. No, I'm not chauvinist. I'm going off the word of God, man. This country's got a problem because women think that if I don't agree with them, you're not the standard, hun. The black community is not the standard of what is racism and what is not. God's word is the standard. And blacks show favoritism and partiality to blacks all day long. Come to the South. I'll prove it to you in my workplace. I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you by the way I get treated and laughed at. I'm walking in public, minding my own business, and black kids will stare and jeer. For what? Because I'm white. And a black kid throwing rocks in my damn lattice out here. I'm right here. I heard this boom. I ran out the front door. See this big rock? I said, what are you guys doing? And I walked over the fence and said, I've never done anything to you guys. I've always been polite. I've always been nice. And fortunately, the man that was renting over there, they were not his kids. And they were the kids 2 doors down. One was middle school and one was preteen. And the black man that lives over there, he says, But that's right. What you say is true. You never were rude to these kids. You guys, get home. Get out of here. Why are you treating that nice man this way? The lattice was busted. I had to repair it and put it back up. I came through a week later when we had the lockdown with the school bus loaded with food. But we were done with the neighborhood. And the school told us, if you have any left, find other people to give it to. They don't want us bringing it back to the school. And because we're in this neighborhood over here, I said, I know a household that might be able to use it. They got 3 little girls. When I knocked at the door, the kid who threw the rock was over there. I said, hey, is the lady home? I want to know if she wants any food. We've got extra food. He said, look, I want to apologize the other day. And I thought it was his brother who did it. He said, I'm sorry. And I said, thank you for owning up to it and apologizing. I forgive you. I said, you see that bus? That's what I do. I'm not rich. When you break stuff on my house, I got to fix that and pay for it, okay? Maybe one day you and I can get together and I can pay you to help me with something, whatever. But whatever anger or issues you got going on, young man, please don't take it out of my house. I worked hard for this and I'm not rich. Because I handled it the right way. If it had been 10 years earlier, I would have blown up. I would have taken advantage of the opportunity to make a difference. When that kid sees me, he says, hey man, what's up? He ain't eyeballing this house that way no more. Because I broke the chain of what he's used to. I broke the chain. And I did hire him to rake up some pine needles. I raked. I said, you put them in the trash cans. You put them in the bags. I'll throw it all in my truck. Fill my bags. I paid him $20. His brother was grounded. I was going to hire him. So I was going to give you each 10, but I'll give you the 20. He said, it feels good to do right. Because I told him that. I said, it feels good to do good, doesn't it? And he agreed. Politics is scuzzy. And a black mayor in D.C. needs to get out. These people are not in it for the right reasons. They're in it for ego. They're in it for the money. They're in it for titleist, whatever. They're in it for corporate ladder climbing, book deals, whatever. You need people that are going to get down on their hands and knees and grovel in the dirt and clean up the mess that others are making and try to find a way to stop it. And the black men in the black community need to turn around to the black men and say, stop leaving your children behind. I'm in it all day long. I have the right and the authority to say that. And look at what your race is creating for this younger set. Music that says motherfucker, Nigger, with a beat to it. Really? How do you expect these kids to soar with wings of eagles when that's what you're compelling them to? But our media is too lazy, won't admit what ethnicity it is because it doesn't fit their narrative of screaming that whites are so evil. That's why whites and Asians get along pretty well, isn't it? Isn't it? We're so racist. That's why Nigerians and Kenyans and Zambians and Ugandans tell me they want to move to the U.S. They don't believe we're all racist. That's why every country in the world virtually wants to come here, because we're so awful to the African-American community that's leaving nothing but a debris trail, percentile-wise, for the small number that you are in the U.S., 11 to 13% of the population. The crime stats are not in your favors. And before you scream racism, it's your people doing it. Look at who's killing who. Even where I live, every other day, blacks are shooting and stabbing each other. People say, aren't you scared? I said, yeah. But what I'm noticing is they're not killing us. They're killing their own. and these ministries and these preachers that don't want to offend or want to be politically correct, or in the case of the AME and the black church, want to pound on the Democrat drum, which God rebuke you for that. You better take a long look at your community and start doing some real overhaul, because you got keel rot all through your ship and it's sinking. And instead of admitting it, you got a Democratic Party that's projecting all that shit onto us. It needs to stop. Stop electing mayors that don't do something. DC should be a city on a damn hill. It's the capital. It should be gleaming with diversity, with cleanliness, with pride. But no, it's a shithole. And do you think that family will get any money for the loss of their beloved daughter by a scumbucket that was a coward? Where's the other black men that don't go and jump him and tear him up for slicing up a woman? Oh, you're such a fucking man, black people. It's so funny. You get all up and you defend George Floyd, but you didn't do one damn thing to stop his destructive path of drug addiction and holding a one, and boom, let's put this out there. Held a gun to a pregnant black woman's belly, robbing her. Where was the outrage from the black males? But let a white guy put a gun to a black woman's belly. Oh, racist. But you don't care if a black man beats up, tears up, slices ribbons black women. And I'll defend black women on that. The black men, most of them are horrible to them on the scale of what's going on. There are some good black men that are good to their black women, but the majority of the black men are not. Don't talk about my race. Don't talk about whites. Don't talk about slavery and racism until you deal with the shit in your own camp. You send your kids to school infected with your toxic pus and your addiction to pot and addiction to drugs and your addiction to theft and stealing and intimidating everybody. Shut the fuck up. And get rid of these worthless mayors that are voted in by the damn color of their skin that don't have the bravery to face this shit. If I was in Chicago, I'd have my cabinet and the police department say, we are walking down in this area today and we're going to make a statement today with the media. Curfews, National Guard in these neighborhoods. You're going to show an ID when you come down these streets. You need to prove that you're going to a job after certain hours. You're not rolling around shooting people. No, but we don't want to do that. Oh, we don't want to offend. We don't want to do anything. Oh, that's against human rights. Okay, so let the killing games continue, you boneheads. You voted in Brandon Johnson. That city gets what it deserves. Have fun with your next round of bloodbath. Black Lives Matters? Blacks don't even believe it. Please, spare me.